Good afternoon again. While everyone's settling in, I just want to remind you that we have a poll question that we'd like for you to answer. If you haven't already, please take a moment to scan the QR code found in your program or up here on the screen to answer just one question. We want to know a little bit more about you and where you spend your time in Essex County. This kind of information is important to us as we continue to engage our communities in all of ECCF's collaborative work. Thanks so much for your participation, and we really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Colucci, and I'm chair of the board at ECCF. On behalf of the entire board and the staff at the Community Foundation, I'd like to welcome you today to the state of Essex County, elevating community and collaboration. We're here to connect, celebrate, and learn about Essex County's evolving strengths and opportunities, and to hear inspiring stories of systems change powered by strong, collaborative partnerships. It's great to see so many new and familiar faces here today. Thanks again for joining us. And now I'd like to introduce the president of Endicott College, Dr. Stephen DeSalvo, to welcome us to campus today.
Thank you, John. Just a quick show of hands. For how many of you is this your first time to this campus? A lot of folks. Well, welcome. It is a beautiful campus, as you can see. We like to tell our students that one of the nice things about Endicott is we have 3 beaches. And those are also accessible to the public, so some of you may have visited those. I want to welcome you. I want you to know that we are strong partners in the community in many different ways. We value everything that the Community Foundation does, but many of you involved in other organizations have connected to Endicott in a variety of ways. Just a brief history, Endicott founded in 1939 as a women's school. The institution evolved over the years from a 2-year to a 4-year institution, and in the mid-90s became a co-ed institution. We seem to be known most recently for our success in athletics. Our baseball team is in the College World Series out in Iowa right now, so first pitch, 2:15 tomorrow, if you want to log on. But it really is a wonderful place. You're sitting in a building that opened in the middle of the pandemic, and right next to us is a brand new building that will open in 3 weeks, which is a nursing and health sciences facility. And when we talk about partnerships, we've established a very good partnership with Beverly Hospital for our nurses to do their clinical placements through the Leahy system. So again, I want to welcome you. If you have a chance to explore campus, please feel free to walk around and speak to folks. This is a wonderful place. We have about 3,000 undergrads typically on this campus. They're all gone now. We had commencement already. And about 1,700 graduate students. So we're not a small institution by any means, but we are thriving in a very competitive marketplace right now. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank my friend Beth Francis for making the call and asking if we had space on this campus. We're delighted to have you here, and great to be partners with you, Beth. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. DeSalvo. We're so lucky to be hosted here today in this beautiful space in Endicott, where a new class of future leaders did just graduate less than 2 weeks ago. I heard it was a wonderful ceremony highlighted by a commencement address that focused on community building, which is really a big part of what we're all going to talk about today. And so now I'd just like to introduce Beth Francis, President and CEO of Essex County Community Foundation, to get us all started. Thank you.
I'm short. Here we go. No heels today. Thanks, John, and thank you, Dr. DeSalvo. We send our congratulations to the class of 2023. Woohoo! If you haven't yet answered our poll, underneath my name here. You'll have a few seconds to scan the QR code. It's on the screen. It's also on the back of your programs. If you could just answer one simple question for us. Again, this information is really helpful to us. But I'd like to start by just thanking everyone for joining us here this afternoon for an evening that we hope you'll find engaging, informative, and inspiring. We'll wait just a few more seconds for any last-minute poll takers to get their answers in. I feel like I need that little clock like Jeopardy does. Do, 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 do. And now before we jump into the meat of our program, we'll take a look at the results. So can we pull those up? Wow. All right, so we'd love to see all 34 cities and towns represented here. The larger the letters, the more people there are here today representing those communities and places. So we see that most of Essex County is represented, and then some. So it's great, and it's certainly what we hope for in our convening today. So with over 400 of our guests joining us in Cleary Hall, there are a lot of people and places and cross-sector roles represented in those results. And that's why we're all here today, to talk about the work we can do together to improve the quality of life for Essex County residents. But before we get started, I'd like to just take a minute to recognize those who've made this gathering possible today, our corporate partners. We call them partners because we truly see them that way. Their support is critical to ECCF's work, and I'd like to take a minute to highlight their commitment to Essex County. Our corporate partner logos were rotating on the screens as you walked in today and are displayed on our corporate partner boards placed throughout the venue. It's humbling to see you all in one place, but just how many businesses and corporations that are committed to the communities in which they live and work. Thank you so much for each and every one of you for your generosity in powering our work at ECCF. I'd also like to take a moment to highlight and personally thank our presenting partner, M&T Bank, which, like ECCF, takes a community-centered approach to the work that they do. The multitude of ways in which M&T gives back in Essex County, from volunteer time for employees to critical financial support to nonprofits and causes in our communities, M&T Bank has a significant impact in our region. So thank you for being our presenting sponsor this year. People can still come in and grab a seat. Okay, I'd also like to thank nearly 20 public officials that we have with us today. Your support in this work is critical to our success and the success of everything around our county. We want to recognize your commitment for elevating community and collaboration in our region. So thank you all for being here. There are too many of you to name, but thank you. And thank all of you for taking the time. It's busy, and people's lives are very busy this time of year. So we appreciate you helping us elevate community and collaboration today. There's so much across our region to celebrate. Our hope for today is that you leave with a deeper understanding about the strengths and opportunities in Essex County, and with a greater insight into the collective vision for the Commonwealth from our Lieutenant Governor. We want you to feel inspired by the stories of community impact fueled by incredible partnerships between public, private, nonprofit, and the philanthropic sectors. These stories will illustrate just how effective cross-sector collaboration is in making a difference in Essex County. Over the next hour and a half, we certainly have a lot to share with you. So, as CEO, I'm often asked, what is Essex County? Most people don't know if their city or town is actually in Essex County. And it's because there's very limited county government here in our region, but also in the state of Massachusetts. So people don't necessarily identify or have an identity of Essex County. And yet, across our 34 cities and towns, we have so much in common as a region, like plentiful open spaces and robust arts and culture scenes. We also face common challenges like affordable housing and public transportation, and a growing behavioral health crisis, to name a few. We believe that there is strength in all the things that connect us. And if we continue to leverage that strength, Our collective and long-term resiliency will continue to transcend city and town lines. When we come together, sharing ideas from Saugus to Salisbury, or collaborating from Amesbury to Andover, we can create lasting, sustainable change. We believe that collectively we can achieve incredible impact. As a countywide organization, we often find ourselves filling the role of convener, bringing people together from the public, private, and philanthropic sectors to solve our common challenges and leverage our shared opportunities. Our work is truly anchored by the needs in our communities, and our table has room for all to take seats and join in. The work we do at ECCF is designed to collectively move the needle on our region's pressing challenges. And to achieve this in a meaningful way, we need to truly understand the needs of our communities. And that, of course, begins with data. Here to share updated and refreshed data points from our impactessexcounty.org data website is Stratton Lloyd, our Executive Vice President and COO of ECCF.
I guess I have to say I'm tall, right? So good match, right? Thanks, Beth, and good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be here, and with so many cross-sector change makers ready to move this work forward together. I'm always humbled by you all joining us in our work today, and thank you for being here. Today we want to talk about ECCF's systems change efforts and the work we do in partnership with local communities. When ECCF embarks on collaborative investments designed to tackle countywide challenges, we begin not only understanding what the needs are, but where and for whom they exist, how they are realized in each of our unique communities, and what creating equitable outcomes would look like. Again, we start with the data. This is why we developed the impactessexcounty.org data website. If you haven't visited the website, I encourage you to take a look. With complete bias, I can share that it's very cool. You'll find more than 100 indicators on the health and well-being of our region. You can view the data by focus area, take a deep dive into a specific indicator, and even see how your community is faring in a particular area. The site also compares Essex County's progress with other regions, so you can see how we fit into the bigger picture. How many of you have had the chance to visit or explore the site? Show of hands. Great. Awesome. Thanks. And so many of you were here with us when we launched the site in 2016. And we hope that anyone new to Impact Essex County has the opportunity to check it out after leaving here tonight. At ECCF, we use the Impact Essex County data in combination with relevant data from a variety of other sources to understand the strengths and opportunities that exist here in the county. The data is also key to centering our work with an equity lens. But impactessexcounty.org is primarily a resource for our communities, open and available for all to use. Public officials use it to understand a local community more deeply. Educators use it for research in their classroom. Nonprofit organizations leverage the information for grant applications and strategic planning. Donors and funders visit the site to help them think more strategically about their philanthropy. So please, dig in, have at it, and we can all get a little bit more informed. We're excited to share today that the website has been updated with current data, and as a result, we wanted to provide a brief analysis of how we see the state of Essex County. This, of course, is just a quick summary of data points that I can highlight in 15 short minutes, but there is a lot more detail to uncover. But before I dig into some of the highlights, I want to acknowledge that while we'll be talking about things in numbers and percentages, the data on this website represents the stories of real people, our friends, families, and neighbors, with lived experiences that serve as a motivation for our collective work. So we'll try not to get too caught up in the actual data. And with that in mind, I want to start with a brief demographic overview of the region. Essex County is home to over 807,000 residents spread across our 34 cities and towns. That's an increase of 12% since the year 2000. Essex County's gateway cities of Peabody, Salem, Lynn, Haverhill, Methuen, and Lawrence are home to 51% of our population, and that percentage is growing. Like a lot of the country, we have an aging population, with the most growth in residents who are 60 and older. And our region is also becoming more diverse, which is enriching our communities. More languages are spoken here than ever before, and Essex County's BIPOC populations are growing. The Hispanic population, as an example, is up by 123%. The Black population has grown 90% since 2000. One other change that we noted here is that 35% of families with children under 18 are headed by single parents. 35%. This is up 8% since 2000. Demographic trends like these are important because they impact the economy, healthcare needs and outcomes, public school funding, what services the government and nonprofits provide, and many other local and national social issues. Let's look past our region's demographics and gain some insight into our strengths and opportunities. First, I want to highlight some of the positive trends in different areas happening across Essex County. First, some wonderful and awesome news in education. Graduation rates across Essex County are up 13% since 2006. The city of Lawrence had the largest gain with a 38-point increase. And before we move on, let's just stop. I heard some sides there and really appreciate that, right? A 38-point increase. This was a result of hard work by many people, many folks that are here today, working together to remove obstacles. It's a wonderful story of cross-sector collaboration. And more good news, this time for our workforce. The data suggests we are bouncing back from COVID. Unemployment across the region is low at 3.8%, and the job participation rate now stands at 65%, which is close to pre-pandemic levels. There's also been a 4% post-COVID increase in jobs, which is higher than the state and national levels. We'll dig a little further into workforce data in a few minutes. And some more positive highlights from across the region. Some positive trends are taking shape around our youth. The rate of children exposed to damaging levels of lead is down 40% since 2010. And the teen birth rate has also dramatically declined 77% from the year 2000. These are two very distinct statistics that point to the overall long-term health of Essex County's young people. Digging into a positive trend in health, just 4% of Essex County residents are without health insurance. That number is down 33% since 2010. This is absolutely incredible, and in part a reflection of the state's commitment to develop policies that cover more residents in need of adequate health care coverage. More positive news, and something that is going to become increasingly relevant in Essex County on the environmental front. Our region continues to commit to preserving open space, with 24% of land in Essex County being protected. This will be critical as we begin to collaboratively discuss climate resiliency as a region. So just as Beth said, there's a lot across the region to celebrate. But we also want to highlight some areas of opportunity. And of course, that's one of the reasons we're all here today. And as we look at this new data, there are a few main headlines that bubble up to the top for us at ECCF. Now, much of this won't come as a surprise because so many of you in this room are already working on these issues every single day. But it's important that we keep these things top of mind, and maybe you'll also learn something new. So for our first headline, living in Essex County is increasingly difficult. Wages are stagnant and costs are increasing. Simply put, it's expensive to live here. Home values are up 38% since 2000, and the median home value in Essex County at $463,000 is higher than both the state and the U.S. medians. To complicate things, salary growth in Essex County is slow and not keeping pace with the cost of living. Since 2000, we've experienced just a 15% increase in salaries, compared to a 26% increase across the state and a 22% increase across the U.S. For many people, living here is just not an option. In fact, 35% of county residents, that's nearly 276,000 households, are living below the living wage, which is the annual income needed for households to afford basic necessities without assistance. Right now, the living wage in Essex County for a family of four with two earners is $133,300. Rising costs and flat wages, this is math that simply does not work. We can also see that the formula is having a quantifiable impact on people's daily lives and their ability to create and sustain wealth. There is an overall 64% home ownership rate across Essex County. And while the rates are high in some towns, they are 25 to 50% lower in many of our more populated communities, which constrains long-term generational wealth building. And when you combine cost burdens with limited wage growth, the need for temporary public assistance inevitably goes up. It's increased 60% since 2007. The most recent data also shows that 15% of Essex County residents are receiving SNAP benefits, an increase from 12% in 2012. And again, the percentages are significantly higher across Essex County's major cities. Financial insecurity is real and impacts so many of us, and it's also impacting Essex County's children. Without economic security, it's not surprising to any of us that children are at higher risk for a wide variety of health, academic, and social challenges. And the challenges they face in childhood can linger, diminishing a child's ability to capitalize on opportunities and lowering their chances to build a successful adult life. We can see here that the percentage of students defined as economically disadvantaged, meaning students who participate in more than one state program, like SNAP, Medicaid, or foster care, increased from 28 to 47% since 2015. This is higher than the state rate of 42%, with percentages much higher in some of the region's largest cities. The number of children living in poverty is also up from 2000, again with rates in the region, most populated areas, much higher than the county average. And as we know from our digital equity work, these economic constraints have a direct impact on a person's ability to leverage opportunity. 1 in 5 families lacks a basic computer, putting these students and their families at an even higher disadvantage post-COVID. It's data like this, however, that has led us to some of our most impactful collective work, which you'll hear more about later in the program. Thinking about supporting additional opportunities for success brings me to the second big headline. Essex County workers need educational and career pathways to secure living wage jobs and meet the workforce needs of our local employers. To provide some context around this headline, let's look at a few things. The data surrounding our workforce is clear. Unemployment is low at 3.8%, and the workforce participation rate is back up. And though salaries are growing at a slower rate than across the state, the demand for workers is high. Taking a look at this chart, we can see a dramatic 63% increase in job postings since 2018, with the highest growing sectors being education, manufacturing, life sciences, and construction. We need to bring more workers into the workforce, and we need to support the upskilling of these workers to meet the needs of employers offering higher paying, in-demand jobs. While there are some positive trends happening in the local workforce, we need to increase educational opportunities that remove barriers for workers seeking higher paying, living wage jobs. And here is some data that tells part of this story. First, a large percentage of our workforce does not have a high school diploma. And while 41% of adults across Essex County have a bachelor's degree, our region falls below the state and is significantly lower than neighboring Middlesex County, which stands at 58%, for those that are competitive with Middlesex County. De-aggregating that data a little further, we can see that the percentage of adults in major Essex County cities who hold a bachelor's degree fall well below the region's average, just 14% in Lawrence and 21% in Lynn, and only 15% of the country's Hispanic residents have a bachelor's degree or higher. To further increase workforce participation and enable people to upskill to higher paying jobs, we need to double down on educational opportunities and integrated career pathways. This, of course, can be a traditional high school diploma, a technical education, a community or traditional college education, as well as innovative career certificates and training programs, all that lead to current in-demand jobs with local employers that offer good pay. From our work in advanced manufacturing, we know that there are many job openings in the sector, but local employers can't find workers with the right technical skills. But with an organized, collaborative effort across the educational, business, nonprofit, and philanthropic sectors, we have, with advanced manufacturing as one example, made meaningful progress. However, jobs and training tell only one part of the workforce story. We know that education is not the only barrier to gainful employment. Transportation has long been a challenge in Essex County. A lack of infrastructure in the region means that just 5% of residents across Essex County use public transportation to get to work. 80% of residents drive alone, and the high cost of owning a car poses additional barriers to entering the workforce and earning a living wage. This all points to the fact that skilled workers might still face barriers to employment if they cannot physically get to work. So solving challenges like transportation needs to become part of a comprehensive workforce development plan, one that increases the numbers of residents entering the workforce and earning a living wage for a brighter future. When we talk about preparing people for the future, we also need to take a look at the data surrounding our younger Essex County residents, which brings me to our third and final headline. We need to better support Essex County's students so that they can realize their full potential. How are students across the region faring in our schools? The data indicates that the pandemic deeply impacted academic performance in the region and profoundly changed the way students engage in the classroom, an effect that continues to linger even into 2023. We've got a lot of education data here, so I'm going to quickly run through a few highlights. The first here are some notes about third grade reading level. Third grade is a pivotal year for mastering literacy. By the end of third grade, students should move from learning to read to reading to learn. In 2022, the percentage of third graders proficient in reading was 39%, down 11 points from 2018, and below the rate of 44%. Proficiency was lower among economically disadvantaged students at 23%. You can see here, too, that percentages vary widely among this group of students when we drill down the data for specific cities and towns. Among Hispanic students, only 20% were proficient, and just 30% of Black students were proficient in reading. When we break down the data in this way, it empowers us as a community to continue to design systems-based solutions that are more equitable for all. Challenges in building these foundational skills also showed up in the data on 8th grade math. The percentage of 8th graders proficient in math dropped a whopping 15 points from 2018 to 34%. Rates were lower among many of the same groups that we saw with reading. For example, just 19% of economically disadvantaged students were considered proficient. And we can see here that this data points also vary widely when we look at individual cities and towns. All of these educational declines have been exacerbated by COVID, no doubt. The COVID slide was real. And it's critical that as we think about the future and the vitality of Essex County, we address these core foundational issues. Okay, I hope I haven't made your head spin with all these charts and numbers and data, but as you can see, impactessexcounty.org is a wealth of information and a great resource to better understand our communities and the root causes of our challenges. Seeing the data and understanding the issues more deeply empowers us to take action and, most importantly, to expand our sense of responsibility to our larger community. And to that end, there are some key takeaways I'd like to share. While much of Essex County is thriving, for example, low unemployment, healthy job growth, and increasing graduation rates, there are deep pockets of poverty, low student achievement, and unequal access to resources, including jobs and transportation. These disparities severely impact our families, friends, and neighbors. And tackling today's challenge will require collaboration across all sectors and the capacity to design and test creative solutions. We have seen this system work before. As a region, not only have we endured the harsh impacts of a global pandemic, but we have also faced the long-term effects of a major regional gas disaster. And we grew stronger and more resilient each time because we faced it together and leveraged the opportunities that inevitably accompany challenges. And there is so much opportunity in Essex County today. This data, these 100 indicators, serve as a call to action for all of us. Whether you are a funder, a nonprofit leader, a public official, or a community or business leader, we all have a role to play. We are all part of a bigger ecosystem in one community. And now, I'd like to introduce a person who has consistently thought about data as a critical foundation for collaborative and community-driven change. Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll has long been an engaged stakeholder and friend, thought partner, advisor, and advocate of ECCF's work. As the former mayor of Salem, she helped launch the Impact Essex County website way back in 2016 and has consistently championed ECCF's role in efforts such as small business support, cultural planning, and overall systems change. It couldn't be more fitting to have Lieutenant Governor Driscoll here with us today as we talk about the state of Essex County and share real-life examples of how systems work is manifesting itself as real and sustainable change in our region. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's terrific to be with you. I just said to Stratton, now we have all that data. Like, what are we going to do with it, right? I love it. I want to thank Beth and Stratton, John, and everyone at Essex County's Community Foundation for inviting me to speak this afternoon. And I'm so glad I got here early enough to really see that data and those components. Like, this is our community. These are our neighbors. And certainly, I want to thank you for the work you do to support both the philanthropic and nonprofit capacity of our region, and certainly as evidenced by this terrific gathering here today, leaders from many sectors as I look around the room. I know the work that you do really matters. Your focus on the needs of our region is really critical to us building strong, healthy, vibrant communities. And I know from experience that you are exemplars in that work, and that's really what these numbers tell the story of the places we live, the people we support, the ability for us to move forward, whether it's with educational attainment or economic mobility. And that's why I'm thrilled to be here in this data-formed systems work, something I also had the privilege to be a part of. Was it 2016? It didn't feel like it was that long ago, to help roll this out. I think this has an impact. It continues to have enriching opportunities for us to advance a shared agenda and to make sure we're having these conversations that lead to action about how we take on, positive changes on the ground in communities. The trends that you've identified are ones that impact people's lives in profound ways. The cost of living and pressures on household budgets, the need for skill training and pathways into good jobs and careers that meet our regional workforce needs. And the challenge of addressing the educational equity goals that so many of our communities have, that really depends on the work that we're doing in that space will really certainly play a meaningful role in our ability to meet our future workforce needs. I always used to say when I was in classrooms in Salem, look at our classrooms. That's our future workforce. Those are the folks that are going to be leading the charge, a decade from now. And in our administration, I should just say I feel a lot of gratitude being here today in this role as Lieutenant Governor. I was so proud to be a leader in the city of Salem for the last 17 years and to take that experience to be partnered up with Governor Healy, who I have a great privilege of working with. She was a rock star AG. She's been a terrific partner, and to be part of the first all-female team in the corner office for Massachusetts is, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you for all the support and the many years I've had the privilege of working in different roles to try and advance community work, but doing it in partnership with Governor Healy is just phenomenal. We like each other. We both played college hoop. We have similar backgrounds. We've leaned into the basketball theme a bit. You may have noticed that. But we both want to go after it. Like, we see an opportunity, given the fact that we're in these positions. We feel a lot of people are rooting for us, and we know that also comes with deep gratitude and a deep responsibility to make sure we're using these roles, the power of convening, the opportunity to bring together resources to advance the quality of life in the places we live. And that's why I'm thrilled to be with you today and talk a little bit about the administration's vision for a more competitive, a more affordable, and a more equitable in Massachusetts. Not just here in Essex County, although Essex County is my favorite county, I'm not afraid to say that, but really across every region in the Commonwealth. And why? Why? Well, because we know having a more competitive, more affordable, and more equitable Commonwealth is good for people It's good for the people who live here, who own businesses here, who go to school here, who want to age in place here with dignity and respect. Our neighbors, our family, our friends, the people we see every day who we rely on in our daily lives. You know, when it comes to affordability, I think it's pretty clear we can't control global inflation, right? But we can address some of the local drivers of the cost of living crisis, including housing costs and childcare. One data point that's not up here is like we're number one in the high cost of housing and the high cost of childcare. That's not a list that we want to be on. We're dealing with an unprecedented housing crisis, and frankly, I've made it my mission to whatever group I'm talking to across this Commonwealth to not leave without saying a word about the housing crisis. It's rooted in a housing shortage that's built up over many years. We're 200,000 housing units short in Massachusetts right now. This is very much a supply and demand challenge. When you have lots of demand with little supply, it means what you do have costs a lot more. It's the work that I've engaged in, certainly as a leader in Salem, because I know that the key to a high quality of life is having a safe, accessible roof over your head. I firmly believe that housing is a human right, and it is key for us in terms of making sure we can drive down that high cost of living that is so important in Massachusetts, and certainly these data and slides are showing and bearing out. I'm actually here to you today, June 1st, the first day that we have created a new secretariat within the Commonwealth. One of the first orders of business as part of the administration's work was creating what's something called the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. And our first housing secretary, just sworn in today, Ed Augustus, is the former city manager in Worcester. Someone who understands what it means to have housing growth happen at all levels. We need more market rate housing. We need more housing for truly, truly vulnerable members of our population, below 30% of AMI. We need the missing middle, workforce housing. People who are pouring coffee and pouring beer for a living. Anyone who you leave your children with in the morning, or an older adult helping care for them. The shelves in the grocery store, they don't get stocked themselves. Somebody goes to work every day to do that, and too many of those folks cannot afford to live in our communities. Even our communities that used to be affordable are not affordable anymore. And one of the reasons we're excited to have this new Housing and Livable Community Secretariat is because it will give us an opportunity to focus on the full range of strategies that can help communities meet their housing needs in smart and equitable ways. We have to accelerate the pace of housing growth in Massachusetts, and every community has to play a role in it. You can't say we're not going to do it. We're a suburban community, we can't do it. Everyone has to say, how can we help meet our housing shortage? It's just no longer something that we can ignore. It's critical to growing our workforce and competing with other states for talent. Now that you can work here and live anywhere, young adults have a choice. And think about the young adults who are graduating. So many kids, like last month, this month, graduating. Can't wait to go to the Essex Tech graduation later today. But many of our college graduates left, right? They're done, they've finished up school. We want to keep them here in Massachusetts. But they're graduating with debt. Many of them, college is expensive, and then they're looking at housing. Some of the most expensive housing costs in America are right here in Massachusetts. What does that say? Well, it might mean that this generation is going to be the first one to do worse than their parents. That's not something we're willing to live with. So it's critical, that we really focus on making Massachusetts a more affordable place to live, take the pressure off household budgets, and frankly, we need everyone with us in this work. For us to be more equitable, for us to be able to tackle some of these needs, we need housing, to push a pro-housing agenda. That means we need to think differently about how we approach housing in our community levels. We need to educate individuals, and we need to be thinking about opportunities for us to accelerate the pace of that. It can't take, we have 200,000 housing units we're short. We build just under 20,000 housing units a year on average. It can't take 10 years to catch up. Not with over half the renters in Massachusetts paying more than 30% of their income towards their rent. We're never going to beat it back. So we need your help in that. The cost of living is also a big focus of our budget proposal for fiscal year '24. We are proposing to use revenues from the Fair Share Amendment to invest in early education, as well as K through 12 and community college. Why is that important? Well, let's talk a little bit about that child care challenge. We're number one in child care cost, and we want to ensure that more families have access to programming essential to the healthy growth and development of all children. We know that high-quality pre-K really matters to improving educational outcomes for our youngest learners. We also know it's just a tried and proven way to help working families, many of whom are making the math work on limited incomes. many of whom are single-headed households led by women that cannot participate in the workforce because of the high cost of childcare. So we're really working hard to address additional revenues to support the childcare industry, which was hard hit coming out of this pandemic, to put the state on a path toward universal pre-K, starting in all of our gateway cities where we know we have the biggest equity gaps. And it's going to play an important piece of the work as we move forward. That also includes paying our childcare workers, in early ed in particular, more money than they're currently being paid. So, yeah, we can clap for that, right? You know, we think this work is going to be critical to help communities on the ground, working families, and it's going to need a state partner in that effort. So there's additional resources in the budget for that. We've also looked at how we can support working families on the ground through our child and family tax credit. That's going to put $600. Anyone who's got a child or adult dependent living with them is going to be able to raise some additional resources to help with the basic costs associated with childcare, groceries, caring for somebody. And we know there are 700,000 moms, dads, and caregivers for more than 1 million dependents that could benefit from this credit, putting immediate dollars back into a family's pocket, and allowing more parents, frankly, if we support the childcare needs that we know we have, early childcare, early pre-K, to get those folks back in the workforce and have a significant equity impact, again, creating that economic mobility. After housing, the number one issue the governor and I hear about, no matter what community we're in, no matter what industry we're talking about, is workforce. I'm looking at Mary Saris right in front. One of the biggest challenges that has emerged as we recover from COVID has just been the workforce shortages. It's affected nearly all sectors of the economy, from healthcare to manufacturing, from education to hospitality sectors. There are just too many workers who don't have the skills and credentials they need to get jobs, and frankly, too many jobs that are going unfilled. If we want to recover from this pandemic fully, we need everyone working on all cylinders to the extent that we can. We have really low unemployment rate in Essex County and in many pockets of the Commonwealth, but we know there's a whole lot of people who are not necessarily in a job that's meeting their full capacity. And we want to connect workers to those job opportunities and create that pipeline. So our budget includes some big investments in higher education, early college, and training pathways into good jobs and careers. Why is it important that we invest in public higher ed? How many public higher ed grads do we have in the room? Any UMass, University, Salem State? Glad to be here at Endicott, wonderful private institution. But I will say that our public higher ed graduates, 75% of them stay in Massachusetts. They're our future nurses, our future teachers, our future entrepreneurs, our future lieutenant governors. I'm one of those. And one of the reasons we want to make sure we're thinking about how we can support our public higher ed partners is because we know there's a workforce connection there too. We've got a program known as Mass Reconnects, which is going to fund free community college for any student, any adult over the age of 25 who doesn't yet have a degree or an industry credential. We've got over 700,000 adults in Massachusetts who started college and never finished, right? Life got in the way. They've got some credentialing. We know that if we can break down those barriers for that additional credentialing, we're going to create an opportunity for those individuals to get upskilled, to expand their career opportunity, to go back to school so they can get a better job, or to go to school for the first time, in essence, as well. We're also proposing a number of key investments in workforce development programs, funding for apprenticeship programs. We're going to have 1,000 new apprentices funded in this new budget at both career technical institutes to help close those skill gaps and expand access to vocational ed. Some of those programs, the construction industry in particular, anyone tried to hire a plumber lately or an electrician? We know that there's opportunities. That's a tried and true apprentice model, but there are also apprentice models for lab techs and healthcare and some of the newer industries that we know are operating in Massachusetts and need that skill set. Expanding opportunities for high school students to explore college and career pathways before graduating high school. I'm looking around this room, and just about everyone in here, I'm willing to bet, graduated from high school. The high school you graduated from and the sorts of programming you did looks very much the same today as it did when you went into high school. Yet our high school kids are graduating into a whole different world. So we are really focused on high school redesign, knowing that we have success in a lot of our vocational programs. Every single vocational high school in Massachusetts has a waiting list. We want to support those efforts, keep those vocational schools strong, but we also know our comprehensive high schools have an opportunity to teach career pathways, to get into the same game, because those students want hands-on experience. We also know we have an opportunity to invest in technology. A lot of lessons learned through the pandemic. Some of our students didn't necessarily mind Zoom. Some of the same reasons that we like to work from home, students like to learn from home. They're going to be graduating, and if they go on to college, many of them are going to be taking online courses or entering a career in workforce that has online or remote work. How do we build that muscle early? How do we take advantage of the innovation that we know we are fond of here in Massachusetts and innovate the way we educate our students? Too many of our young adults, some of that is tied to, if you look at the data, absences in high schools, like who is not showing up. They're not showing up because they're not engaged. We have a whole generation of young people who grew up on this, and we're still teaching them very much in a way that's a little different. We have work to do in that area. We're committed to helping fund it, to helping lead that innovation, and to learning on the ground from the folks who do it best. In those classrooms, leading those schools, understanding that we're willing to embrace new ways of looking at how our students learn. So many years ago, if you became a nurse, you went to the hospital to learn. You were trained at a hospital. You didn't necessarily go to college. We want to support and celebrate innovation, career pathways, apprenticeships, experiential learning that so many people benefit from. In the coming weeks and months, we're rolling out even significant additional workforce initiatives, lengthening the lead in the areas we're doing well, like life sciences and clean tech, and also working to look into areas where we know we have opportunities for growth. And as always, we welcome leaders from across sectors and regions to be at the table. We want your ideas and your expertise to help us grow and make sure this Commonwealth continues to thrive. I think bottom line, we have fantastic schools and programs, we have talented workers, we have innovative businesses, and we have open jobs. So our strategy is to bring more resources to the table and to get everyone working together to expand economic opportunities and harness the full potential of Massachusetts. I want to touch upon educational equity because I think it's just so critical to how we think about the success of the Commonwealth long term. I touched upon like pre-K and our community college investments. Our budget also includes the largest dollar amount invested for K through 12 funding for schools. This is the largest investment in the state's history to fund the full Student Opportunity Act. And that's really critical to address some of those pandemic learning losses. It is pretty tough to look at numbers that have third grade readers not at the level they need to be at a larger and larger percentage growing from this pandemic. And we know it's critical to address this from an equitable lens. This funding is going to make sure every individual school district has the funding they need to provide the guidance counseling, the social workers, the social and emotional supports, which, if you haven't seen some of the latest CDC data, our teens and our young adults, this is definitely the last 2 years, the saddest generation of young adults we've seen in American history. Anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, a loss of togetherness has really impacted our teenagers and our young adolescents. We know our schools are going to need to make investments not only in how we learn and how we engage, but also those support systems around counseling and guidance work that we think can help us as we come out of this pandemic. We've also got $1 million for universal mental health screeners. Students who've never experienced mental health challenges are now experiencing that. I don't want us to go home and paint the windows black, because we're on it, okay? We're gonna make it a little bit easier to gain access to those services, but there is work to do, and I think for a long time, our teachers in schools have been asked to do so much, and for a long time, we've talked about meeting the full spectrum of needs that students bring to the classroom. This isn't 100% new. We've always had, I think, unevenness as we think about how we address educational attainment. Now is the time for us to get smart about bringing resources to bear to address it. If I think about what work we did during the pandemic, it was all hands on deck. Everybody did whatever we had to do to make things happen. The esprit de corps that people brought, whether it was feeding individuals in our community or making sure that kids had access to computers so they could do their remote learning. We need to take that same spirit to make sure we're meeting the needs of our students, that young population that needs us right now. And no matter how highly our public education system ranks nationally, and it does, we know we can't be just number one for some. We've got to be able to deliver educational excellence for all of our students. That's going to take the extra effort, not only in resources, but in our willingness to innovate and think about how we do this work. I'm sure every administration, new administration, we're in the first day of our 6-month, thinks, this is a critical, pivotal moment in our history. I think that too, and so does Governor Healy. It does feel like we're in an inflection point coming out of this pandemic. We're not all quite sure exactly how this pandemic's going to impact the economy. Are people going back to work? How are we actually going to treat healthcare and deliver high-quality healthcare that we're used to? How do we think about tackling a climate crisis when we're still overcoming some of the work that's tied to this pandemic and the challenges? It really does feel like we're at an inflection point in Massachusetts in this this what I call messy transition time, and that we also have access to resources. More resources than we've ever had from the federal government. Frankly, even weathering some of the challenges through this pandemic, Massachusetts came through it from an economic perspective pretty well. So we have an opportunity to address these challenges in more comprehensive ways. We do have access to resources. We always worry about not having enough, but we've got some. But this is our chance to put everyone together towards an effort, an all-hands-on-deck moment for sort of a Team Massachusetts. The governor and I talk about Team Massachusetts a lot. Yes, we both played hoop, and so we think about that, that team component. But it's also about a desire to go out and get it, about pulling people together who bring immense talent and creativity, data, and local knowledge to meet these challenges, build on our successes. We're competing for federal funding. We're competing for talent and investment. We're competing to be a place where all working people can thrive and continue. So I'm grateful for all of you, for Essex County Community Foundation, for your commitment to making sure we not only have the resources available to meet our needs, but we're doing so in a way that's driven by data. We know what's happening on the ground, something we can measure. We can look at this a year or two from now and see, where do we move the needle? Let's invest in those areas where we know works, things that we know work. We also want to make sure that we have a competitive, affordable, and equitable Essex County when we think about competition for growing our Commonwealth. We'll continue to pledge our administration's partnership at the local level and the regional level. So I'd encourage everyone here, reach out and find ways to connect with ECCF. This work, as much as we support it and want to be a partner in it, we know what happens on the ground at the community level. The state doesn't educate kids. It happens locally in cities and towns. The state doesn't necessarily address workforce challenges. We work in partnership with employers, with those running apprentice programs, with our community colleges to grow the expertise in making sure we have the skills. I'd like to say we don't run a transportation system, but we do, and we're working on fixing it. We're going to fix it, I can tell you that. I'm still not quite sure where bottom is yet with the MBTA, but I can tell you this, for the first time in 8 years, the MBTA is being led by an engineer who is a transit professional who ran a system before, and we are building a strong team there to give them the ingredients to make sure as we think about transportation, we're going to have a system that you can be proud of. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but we're working hard on it. And as we think about transportation, so much of the conversation we need to have is not just about how we get people back and forth to Boston. That's what the MBTA is supposed to do well. It's how we get people in and out of the North Shore in our regions where we all play, work, go to school. And that's some of the work that I think innovation that we want to be able to support and have supported at the community level. So I hope you can tell I'm still passionate about this work. The people in this room, all of you, are going to help us get this done. So I want to say thank you for being here, for what you do each and every day in your communities. Thanks for letting me be a part of it today. And we want to grow a thriving Massachusetts that works for and welcomes all. Appreciate your support.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. I'd like to thank the Lieutenant Governor Driscoll for taking the time out of her very, very busy schedule. She's off, as you can see, to be here with us today. Her support for this work and everything that we do at Essex County Community Foundation has been unwavering. So, as you've heard many times today, this work takes all of us. Say it with me. All of us. There we go. It requires people from across the county, from all parts of our community, all with different roles to play. But instead of me telling you, I'd like you to see and hear it for yourself about how collaboration makes a difference in Essex County.
There's a little bit of everything here. Urban infrastructure and cultural assets, there's great outdoors, there's history, and there's vibrancy that exists in all these places every day. Like so much of America, there's a lot of difference, and reconciling that difference is challenging. The incredible amount of wealth immediately adjacent to incredible levels of poverty, those issues need to be addressed.
The community itself is a puzzle. Everyone's unique and different, but there's some essential pieces that need to come together for us to know where the problem is, or maybe where the solution is.
Our systems today have a lot of that bias and racism built into them. If you're going to really get to the root of the issue, you got to understand how it kind of happened. And we're all, I think, still going through a lot of healing.
People want to work together, they want to solve problems, and they're looking for opportunities and platforms to solve those problems together. And so a lot of what we do is create the environment for these groups to collaborate and work.
It starts with data, and it convenes people, cross-sector leaders around that data, and then it brings solutions to the table that with investments could be scaled for greater impact on a bigger population level change that we're trying to achieve.
In the past, philanthropy had been small grants. We wanted to do larger grants. Philanthropy was usually 1 year. We wanted to do multiple years. Philanthropy tended to be symptom-based. We wanted to be systemic, thinking about root causes and trying to design systemic solutions. Philanthropy typically funds one organization. We wanted to think about a model where you could fund collaboration. And finally, as a community foundation, we didn't want to just give a grant and step away. We wanted to be fully engaged and at the table as a partner in that work.
The most important work that we can do when we build coalitions is to ensure that the people who are closest to the problem are most proximate to the solution as well.
I see the richness not only of clean data collection that can later be leveraged for our own individual missions and purposes, but also there is a lot of power in moving together as a network. I think that when you bring all of these collective talents in organizations and local leaderships, which is what systems thinking does, I think that it gives you greater impact opportunity. To me, that is the beauty, the gift that ECCF has in our region.
ECCF's current leadership really understands that the community-based organizations and community residents have a really valuable perspective, probably even the most valuable perspective, right, in the conversation to bring to the table, because they're the ones who have suffered or experienced it or put their brains together to figure out how to solve this. That relationship over time, I think, really evolved from being more of a traditional funder-grantee relationship to being more of a thought partner.
Systems philanthropy as a general concept can be taken anywhere. That can be taken as a concept and used in any intervention, right? We're using it in arts and culture. We're using it in digital equity. We're using it in small business, resiliency.
We're not going to just address the problems. We're going to solve the problems. We're in the solution. The only way you can get into the solution is if you get all the parties together.
What I think is powerful through this collaboration is that an individual can change a neighborhood, can change your street, can change your town, your city, can change your county, because $1 can change everything when put together and put to work within a system.
One of the things that I love most about ECCF is I think there is a ton of runway ahead of this organization. It's going to require donors who have vision and dedication. It's going to require collaboration with the public sector. It's going to require institutional support. But there are so many issues in Essex County that remain to be addressed. We have years of work ahead of us.
My hope is that there is a growing web of connections and relationships that keep getting wider and bigger and stronger. When we have that, there won't be a challenge that we can't tackle together.
It's exciting to see what community and collaboration can do in Essex County. In those conversations, we heard from people, change makers, like you, across the region and across sectors about why coming together matters, and that when we do, the possibilities for positive transformation are infinite. We wanted you to feel inspired by the why of systems change, to get an understanding of the big picture. Before we take a deep dive into our collaborative work and investments, it's important that we explain how ECCF helps to build the collaborative muscle it takes to deliver long-lasting change. I want to share some specifics on our approach, our methodology. First, as we've been talking a lot about this afternoon, we look at the data, quantitative, but also qualitative data. Working with the community, we prioritize critical issues and start to understand the interconnectedness of each identified ecosystem. From there, we can better assess where exactly financial and human resources would have the biggest impact. What are the levers of change, as we like to call them, and where will we have the most impact? The data collected along the way helps answer those questions. Next, we align our cross-sector community partners around a shared strategy. This community-defined strategy is consistent with and targeted at our levers of change. Long-term solutions don't come from a silo. We need philanthropy, government, nonprofits, and communities to work together to solve our greatest social challenges. We need to accelerate good, local work and identify gaps. This work is by, for, and from the community. We then collectively engage, encouraging collaborative investments over multiple years, and work towards a common set of goals, metrics, and timelines. Co-funding critical work increases the size and scope of the investment and helps sustain meaningful collective action and build long-term resiliency. Finally, we partner to build a stronger, sustainable system that tests, learns, and adapts. This is what we call the flywheel effect of successful systems change. When we collaborate and think systemically on issues impacting our community, we create the invaluable social capital and trust that is vital to a thriving Essex County, one that is agile and resilient, no matter what comes our way. This trust is then able to grow exponentially over time. We have all witnessed this. And this, at the end of the day, is local, community, and regional resiliency. As we sit here in Cleary Lecture Hall, we may be getting a bit academic for everyone, so I apologize for that. But we wanted to share with you a little bit about our approach and the framework that powers the real-life impact of systems change and the intentionality of it in our communities. And now, rather than share more stats and numbers, we want to lift up the people, the organizations, and the voices of those engaged in these efforts and hear from them what elevating community and collaboration means in Essex County. I'd like to start by inviting my dear friends and teammates, we'll stick with the team theme, but I had that here, teammates, Mary and Jennifer, up on stage. Come on up.
Yes, really. Hello. Thank you for coming. My name is Mary Saris, and I'm the Executive Director of the Mass High and North Shore Workforce Board. Cross-sector solutions to workforce challenges, as the Lieutenant Governor has already indicated, are critical to long-term resiliency, and it has been incredibly powerful and rewarding to be part of a coalition of not just workforce boards and career centers, but nonprofit organizations, employers, funders, educational institutions, and community leaders thinking collaboratively and holistically about ways to meet the needs of local workers and businesses.
Hi everyone, Jennifer Edwards. I'm with the GE Foundation. Thrilled to be here celebrating this community and all the work that you all have been doing. And it's been a real joy to be partners in this collaborative work that you're going to see in a bit, and how we've really focused in reskilling, skilling adults into really good paying jobs with careers in advanced manufacturing. And as I engage in the program and I meet the graduates and I go to the graduations and I see them hired into great companies on the North Shore, what just keeps bubbling up to the top of my mind is the human impact of this work. And at the end of the day, that I think is one of the greatest KPIs we can be measuring, right? The transformational change that happens in the lives of these individuals.
Absolutely. There is nothing better than going to one of our graduations. If anybody would like to come, just let us know. It is life-changing for people in attendance, let alone the graduates. The Advanced Manufacturing Training Expansion Program is effectively helping to train and connect individuals who are skilled and immediately ready for employment.
And we are really excited to share this program with you. The storytelling that you're going to see is just going to demonstrate the impact that these opportunities provided to the adults in your community and the changes it has made in their lives.
Thank you.
On the North Shore of Massachusetts, we have a gap in our workforce. We need more skilled and trained individuals entering into advanced manufacturing.
The workforce in Massachusetts is facing a crisis already, and it's about to get worse.
Advanced manufacturing is really 3 different careers wrapped into this umbrella. So you have machining, you have engineering, and then you also have metal fabrication and welding.
The workforce challenges are not exclusively a pipeline issue. There are people and they're talented folks and there are jobs, but oftentimes we see it as a narrative issue. People have been raised through a generation to see college going as the only real path towards raising a family and economic security. And along the way, we've left a lot of people and a lot of economic opportunities, a lot of workforce pathways out of that narrative.
Our initiative, the Advanced Manufacturing Training Program, is building a robust and very diverse pipeline of individuals who are skilled and ready to work.
We also provide stipends to people while they're in training to cover the costs that they incur to go to training. We'll pay for a babysitter if you need it, transportation, which is a big issue here on the North Shore, even your lunch or dinner. We try to help people really get into and succeed in training.
We have tons of unfilled skilled labor jobs that we don't have qualified candidates for. You can make a good living, comfortable living without crushing, student debt right out of high school.
I always worked jobs where nothing was like guaranteed. You could work for a company forever and get laid off. And now to know that I have a job whereas I could be there for the rest of my life, being from Lynn and getting the opportunity to work at GE is just like a dream come true.
So it was a little overwhelming to begin with. I didn't know any of the tools, any of the machines I was working on, but the teachers in the program from day one made me feel comfortable. I just got hired at Procter & Gamble. I'm very excited.
I'm able to take care of my family. I got a house last year. I don't see myself doing anything else but this because you can have a very, very bright future.
I have ADHD, and this is a perfect area for people like me. I like this type of field and hands-on work, so I want to do that instead of college.
I've been able to buy a house, I've been able to buy a nice car, have a family. The rewards are endless. And doors open everywhere for you.
The sky's the limit. If they have that tenacity and perseverance, which often they do, because they've already had to struggle with barriers their entire life, we have some people making upwards of 6 figures.
We just had a wonderful tour of a manufacturing company up here in the North Shore, and they have hired over 20 people from our programs.
We're selling out of programs, meaning there's a wait list now.
We work hard to get women into it, and there was 2 women in this graduating class. And there were these 2 little girls, and when the mother's name got called, the little girl yells, "Go, Mom!" And it was such a moment of enthusiasm, excitement, exactly what we want to see.
And you can see the emotion, the tears. These are transformative opportunities.
The GE Foundation, ECCF, Mass Hire, North Shore Community College, our business partners, Essex North Shore, all of us coming together is what makes the program successful.
Great. That was a really powerful example of how collaboration and systems building are supporting a stronger Essex County. Thank you to everyone working together to strengthen our workforce and for sharing those stories. Good afternoon. My name is Karen Risteben, and I'm the Program Director for ECCF's Creative County Initiative. We began this collective work in arts and culture 6 years ago based on the belief that creativity is not just a nice to have, but rather a central part of the quality of life here in Essex County. Since then, it's been incredibly gratifying to observe the ways in which this work has unfolded, how it's drawn people together from different sectors and from every corner of the region for one purpose, to elevate the arts and culture in Essex County.
Hi everyone, my name is Donika Thurston and I'm the Executive Director of the Lynn Museum and Lynn Arts. I've served on the Creative County Steering Committee and as co-founder and facilitator of the Creative County Changemakers program. Through my involvement with Creative County, I've come to learn not only about the challenges we face as a region, but also how critically important it is to connect with one another to make problem solving easier and to make long-lasting change possible.
ECCF, through our Creative County initiative, is committed to supporting a strong ecosystem for arts, culture, and creative enterprise that is sustainable, equitable, and accessible to all.
Artists, businesses, nonprofits, and municipalities from across Essex County come together to co-create this work that is truly for and by the community. Here's the Creative County story.
Traditionally, we're aware that we need housing, we need economic development, we need good transportation, we need open space, we need to consider our environment, good schools to train our children. These are basic services that a community needs to provide. We believe that arts and culture are a part of that. It's not layered on top of, it's not a kind of afterthought that comes after those elements are addressed. It's a part of that. Arts and culture are the way that we all sort of understand each other. The dialogue, the communication within the community is so much more enriched when it is done through arts and culture. So it becomes a central part of the quality of life discussion that we need to have. Arts and culture that enrich and enliven our lives, that makes community.
We're bringing artists together with business owners. We're bringing them together with municipal planners. We're bringing them together with economic development.
I see a piece of everybody's culture everywhere.
It inspires, it energizes, and it makes people think outside the box.
Art brings understanding, art builds bridges, it brings people together, it makes connections that are unbreakable sometimes, stronger than blood.
We're seeing all of our classes are filling with wait lists, and so we can't even accommodate the need in the community. So we need to grow.
The ultimate vision is to have a performing arts and arts education center here in Lawrence.
We want to make sure that the spaces we create are for and by the community and that we're filling a void that the community needs.
Artists are great people. They certainly help with the economic sustainability of the city. Now we have to help them with that.
We have something here. We need to recognize first the people who give into this culture, who uplifted it, and now we're here. We have so many people who are part of it and talented and definitely worthy of being recognized in this space.
Art has always been a way to fight racism because, like I said, it's how we express ourselves. Things are changing. What I do matters. And that people that came before me who thought that what they were doing didn't matter, they can see now that it does.
Our Creative County initiative is really about changing the mental model of arts and culture in our communities. And it's not about a pretty mural. It's about the pretty mural being of importance to the community and seeing themselves.
Those murals really represent kind of a life force of all the people who live in them.
That's what the art's about. It brings people together. It gets people out of their shell to really engage.
It was so hugely rewarding to see that come to fruition, to see the joy.
Arts and culture is core to the community. And it's also not just economic development. It also gives us a reason of why we want to be here, why it's a great place to live, why the quality of life is great.
It helps us to think more deeply about things. It gives us hope. It provides us with humor and breaks from our worries, and we all have those. Creative arts and a creative ecosystem it's a vital part of any community.
Part of changing the narrative of communities is something that I love about artists is just that the rigor of actually digging into why that narrative came in the first place. What artists can do that's really incredible is actually help us vision a different kind of future. I think this work is really hopeful, right? That your imagination is in some ways very unlimited. And so I think being able to empower people to have unlimited imagination is just really like incredibly joyful work.
Buenas tardes. Vamos a hacer todo el programa ahora en español. All right. The work of Creative County is such a great realization of what can happen when we come together for a common goal. My name is Carolina Trujillo, and I am the Executive Director of Citizens In. I've been involved in this work of advancing digital equity since the very beginning, and have seen firsthand the power that digital access has on some of the region's most marginalized individuals. It makes everyday living easier, and it opens up a world of opportunities and possibilities.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Connolly, and I'm an ECCF fund holder.
Are you going to do that in Spanish?
That's just between you and me. I am also a member of the Foundation's County Leadership Council, and for the last several years, like Carolina, a member of the Digital Equity Advisory Board. But I guess I'm up here to tell you that I've seen firsthand that when you combine this collaborative spirit with multi-year commitments to funding, you get a systems-based solution to bridge the digital divide.
Well, we are two of more than 250 members of the Digital Equity Coalition working to make a real difference in people's lives here in Essex County. And we are thrilled to share with you today how community and collaboration are helping people to navigate our increasingly digital world.
Let us introduce you to advancing digital equity in Essex County.
Digital equity is at the core of everything we do.
COVID brought digital equity right up to the forefront.
What happened in Lawrence was all of a sudden all these kids were sent home from school, but they didn't have computers at home, right? Their family might not even have had internet access.
Me and my brother will need to think, okay, I will not go to class today, so you can pay attention in class, and the Wi-Fi won't be slow for you on your side. It was difficult. It was really difficult.
There's this grandmother from the community that I met, came across her in Walmart. As I'm going in, she was so hesitant because it's like, I don't know how to pay, and I don't want to walk out of here and people be like, she's stealing things. And so as soon as she saw me, her face just transformed. She's like, you probably know how to use it. Like, she was so scared to ask anybody. That is why digital inequity is really affecting people in neighborhoods like this, because these systems were not created with the mindset of a 85-year-old woman.
Systems change is critical when
you're talking about an issue of scale like digital equity. Bringing together practitioners from across institutions of higher education, K-12 districts, funders, employers. If it's done in silos, we're not going to serve the people that need us the most.
Where ACCF stepped in was saying, okay, we can help facilitate this. We know who the various parties are. We know where the money is. We know where the need is. We know where the executors are. Let's help facilitate.
We started coalition building right from the beginning. Over a 3-year period, we had a goal of creating 100 members on our coalition, and about a year in, we're at 275. So you can see that there's a lot of interest there.
And through ECCF, I've met Tech Collaborative, and Tech Collaborative has been a breath of fresh air. Tech Collaborative has opened the doors for us to have access to Chromebooks and laptops. We've noticed that a huge uptick in our statistics for our teen room has been when we introduce more technology.
The Point neighborhood in Salem, a neighborhood of 4,000 people, predominantly Latinx. Our partner, the North Shore CDC, came to us along with their residents with a proposal to say we want to do free residential Wi-Fi inside and outside of individuals' homes within the 30-plus buildings that they own in Point. That project had a tremendous impact, not just on that neighborhood, but on the entire way that we were thinking about our strategy.
We have a grant with ECCF to provide free internet access for a whole neighborhood.
We can put up every technological intervention that you can imagine, but without the real, thoughtful, culturally competent adoption measures, you're not going to have use of them.
And the people on the ground that are executing this are the most important part of the equation.
When ECCF connected us with Tech Goes Home, we were able to build in more robust curriculum, and we have had such success with that program. Like, every class is packed, and we have a high graduation rate.
Now you have telehealth. Now you have to apply for jobs. Schooling is at home. Between 50 and 90 kids in shelter at given points of time, and we have some of them that are receiving classes and therapy through the computers.
For a relatively small sum of money, with some systemic planning, engagement of multiple agencies collaborating to deliver the Wi-Fi, to deliver the computer, to deliver the training, all of a sudden you deliver the people to the technological community, and it's an extremely powerful outcome.
If we're doing it with ECCF and we're doing it for multiple communities around Eastern Massachusetts or around the Commonwealth, then you can start to attract larger dollars in to solve the problem.
I have tremendous hope that collaboration and partnership in the space of systems change can close the digital divide for all of our residents, and I've seen it firsthand.
So, as you can see, it's a powerful thing when community and collaboration truly come together. It opens opportunity for all, and it shows that we're so much greater than the sum of the individual roles that we all play. We hope that you feel inspired by today's event. While we've only had time to share with you just 3 of ECCF's collaborative systems change work, there are more efforts taking place throughout our communities, some in which ECCF leads, but so many others for which ECCF sits at the table, a guest supporting countless leaders and organizations reaching towards collective community goals. There are more efforts on the horizon at ECCF. We aren't quite ready to share all the details, but I wouldn't want to miss the opportunity to plant a few seeds with you all today. So first, watch for news this summer on the launch of ECCF's Racial Equity and Social Justice Fund. It's our commitment to advancing racial equity in Essex County, so watch for some more news over the summer. And second, this fall, we'll unveil a new data study focused on climate resilience and environmental justice challenges that we face here in our region. While the study is a first step in our systems thinking approach, We intend to convene cross-sector leaders in what we like to call Think Labs at ECCF, particularly around climate in the coming months. So stay tuned for more information on those two initiatives. At the end of the day, we are, all of us together, building strong ecosystems and creating positive change in our communities. We have many partners who are committed to this collaborative work. What we hope you leave here with today is a sense that while this work is big and it is ambitious, it is also collective, welcoming, and intentional. We hope that you can see and feel the changes happening around us through these meaningful incremental changes we talked about tonight. A class of graduates with the promise of new careers and brighter futures. A neighborhood lifted by access to technology and training. And a community united by artistic vision of what could be. But these things can only continue to grow when we're all engaged in this work. And we want you to join us, whatever way makes sense for you. We want you to get involved. Get involved by joining a coalition. Become part of a cross-sector group working together to create meaningful solutions to challenges that matter to you. It may be with ECCF, or it may be in your community, but become part of a systems change work in your community. Get involved by becoming an ECCF donor, whether that's joining ECCF as a fund holder or by donating to an existing one of our funds. Our 300 fund holders with charitable funds at ECCF power our work, the work that you saw today. So more donor-advised funds at ECCF means more collaborative work will happen in Essex County and beyond. Our goal is to help elevate systems thinking in your philanthropy. And get involved by staying connected. Sign up for our foundation newsletter if you're not already a signer-honor. Be the first to learn about news like ECCF's new Racial Equity and Social Justice Fund, or learn about joining our nonprofit learning opportunities that we host, or hear more about the Endowment for Essex County, a campaign that will create long-term resources for much of the systems work that you heard about today. So you get the idea. There are many ways for you to get involved, and we need you because when we work together, the state of Essex County becomes brighter. When we support efforts designed by the community in service to the community, we seed and grow hope. And when we collaborate in thoughtful, intentional ways, we can achieve sustainable, positive change together. Thank you for taking the time to be here today, for your willingness to listen and learn about ECCF's work, and for considering how you can play a role in the collaborative success. I'd also like to offer our sincere thanks to all of those people, many of you in the room today, who helped tell the stories of impact that inspired us all today, and for truly elevating community and collaboration in Essex County. Now, there's one more special event that is part of our program this evening, although I am standing between you and the bar. So, in the lobby, we have an artist Maya Ederlai, will be leading us in a collaborative art project. Who's excited about this? I am, because I've seen part of it already. So Maya will be leading us in a collaborative art project during our social hour. This project was commissioned specifically for this event, and we hope that you'll take a few minutes to participate, observe, or just stop by and say hi to Maya. She'll be building a collaborative sculpture with abstract shapes and forms that she's created and painted. But Maya has also left room for all of you to contribute your words, your thoughts, and your ideas about community and collaboration. Each of our individual shapes and ideas will become part of something bigger and something lasting at ECCF. All right, so now I'd like to invite you all to join us for some food, some drink, and some community building outside of the auditorium, where there are refreshments and food on both levels. So you can exit here to the left, or you can exit up at the top. Did I say that there's two bars? There's bars at the top, and there's a bar downstairs. But we encourage you to introduce yourself to someone new, to find out about the causes that they care about, and to share yours. And we hope that as you spread the work of community and collaboration, you find common ground and maybe learn something a little new. thank you again for joining us tonight at the State of Essex County and helping us to elevate community and collaboration. We'll see you outside.